Hey, what's up everyone? It's Sri here. This is part 4 of a free mini-series that is included in a larger trading course for C3 members and for those that purchase the courses. There are over 90 videos and counting, and they cover various aspects of trading. So this video is one of the more important videos, especially if you're starting out, because it goes through how to size your trades properly using the appropriate risk. So everyone can access this document for free. All you need to do is join my free Discord, and you can find it in the freebies channel. There is a link to it, updated link there. And then the first thing you want to do is file, save a copy. The reason for this is quite simple. It's so that you can edit the account sizes in the individual sheets, of which there are, I believe, six different sheets that you can edit the position sizes. And I'm going to run through these in a moment here. But first, file and save a copy so that you can rename it and then bookmark it. I use this tab every day. It's right next to my exchange tab. I use Blowfin. Of course, if you want to support me, you can sign up under Blowfin. And then this is how I determine my sizing. Let me be crystal clear here in saying that if you are newer to trading and you're still honing your strategies, use these sheets first. Okay, these are the low risk sheets. And the reason I say this is quite simple. I want you to fail fast. I want you to take a lot of trades, and I want you to lose the least amount of money possible so that you don't blow your trading accounts. Now, for many, it's inevitable that at some point you blow a trading account. And in that case, I say start with $100 to $500 and still trade less than 1%. That should be your risk per trade, okay? But take more trades. Then as you get more comfortable, you get higher conviction, you'll start taking less trades and you'll start risking 1%. And then you can start graduating to these higher levels. And we'll talk about this as we develop here. But there's a reason there's two sheets. This one covers stop losses from 4.5% to around 9.25%. Beyond that, you're at risk of liquidation with a 10x trade. This one, the 20x sheet, covers from 0.5% to 4%. Okay, and so beyond 4%, you're at risk of liquidation on a 20x trade. Now, this column here, so this is your account size. You can change this, and it's going to change all of the other numbers because it's doing the math and figuring out exactly how much to put into the trade. These are the position sizes for the dollar risk. So this is exactly what you stand to lose if you risk 0.25% on a $100,000 account with, say, a 0.5% stop. So the very first thing you should be doing when you're setting up a trade is what? It's figuring out where you're wrong. And that's this little red area here. So if you don't have these tools bookmarked, you can find them here, the long and short positions, okay? And the short position has the fatter part headed down. The long position has the fatter part up. So I've drawn this on the chart, and I've identified in this particular trade, let's just say hypothetically this is a 5.5% stop. So now what I need to do is go back to my sizing spreadsheet. Before I even take the trade, I'm thinking, how much am I willing to lose on this? What's my conviction? Okay, I'm still learning. I don't have high conviction. It's a 5.5%, which means I should be using the 10x sheet, 10x leverage. And I narrow it down here to this column. And now I'm thinking 0.5%. So I want to put $909 into the trade. This is before leverage. After leverage, it would be 909 times 10. So that there should be $9,000, roughly $9,090 in margin. Okay, but I'm putting 900 into the trade. So understand that distinction. And then the risk is $500. So I stand to lose $500 on a $100,000 account, which really isn't all that much. We can again adjust this to $10,000. I mean, if you have a $100,000 account, it's not that much, right? But if it's a $10,000 account, you're only risking $50. So I'm saying take more of these trades as you're learning, and then as you become consistently profitable, then you can start moving up to the 1% trades. Now, this is going to be the same or similar for the 1 to the 5% spreadsheets. The only difference is the calculations. So you'll see this is the percentage risk. It tells you exactly how much given your account size, which you should update after every trade. This is the monthly open if you're interested in tracking your progress. Of course, there are other apps that can do this where you can input or use APIs to connect to the exchange platform, and it can give you more insights into your trades. I definitely recommend that. But just starting out, knowing exactly where you started at the beginning of the month, and this will automatically calculate either your gain or your losses. So it will either be positive or negative here. And so with a 9,000 monthly open, I've gained 11% so far this month. Okay, this is all hypothetical, of course. Now, the only distinction here with the 1% spreadsheet, I have these extra rows, and this is from 0.2 to 0.6%. Now, it's very rare that I will take a trade with a 0.2% or even 0.5% stop loss, but in some cases I will. And in that case, I'm usually risking 1% or less. I don't risk beyond 1% in those trades. So these will not appear in these spreadsheets, just in this one. And you can, of course, delete them. You can edit these as you see fit. So there's no copyright on any of this. It's all open source. So this is just basically using the most sensible leverage where I can keep my account size small, or keep the amount that I have in the account small, so that I'm not completely at risk. So let's just say that you have a $10,000 account. You don't actually have to keep all that money in the account. You could have maybe 30 to 40% in the account. And this is showing with a 20x trade, if you're risking 1% per trade, you only really need 2,500. So if you're thinking, well, I'm only going to have maybe 3% maximum risk at any given time, well, then you only need $7,500 in the account maximum. And that's assuming, again, that you're taking trades with this sort of a stop loss, which in most cases we're not. So you really only need, I would say, 25 to 30% of what you actually have as trading funds in the account. The rest you can stable, and you can move it to cold storage, or you can even just keep it in the bank if that feels more comfortable for you. So that's something that took me a few years to figure out, but it's definitely helpful. So that's one of the benefits of using leverage. Leverage by itself is just a tool, and it's how you use it that is important. And that's why the spreadsheet really will help you, because it will give you exactly the size you need. Each of these positions, it's all risking 1%, assuming that you're using 20x leverage and you're using the exact position size shown. So in the case of the trade setup that I shared just previously, I would put $182 in if it was if I was risking 1% on a $10,000 account. Okay. And then if I'm wrong, I lose $100. So one thing that I noted here in the tips is you should feel comfortable accepting that amount of money shown, not just once, but 5 times in a row before you take the trade. Because the reason I say this is because statistically it's shown that even traders with a great edge can experience periods of drawdown. They can have 3 to 5 losing trades in a row. So if you lose 1% 5 times in a row, well, you lose $500 in that case. If, on the other hand, you lose 5% 5 times in a row, you lose 25% of your account. So that's why a lot of traders use 1% as the standard risk, but that doesn't mean that you can't risk more. And I'll share with you some of my rules in a moment here. So we determine the stop loss first. We have rules for how much we're going to risk per trade and how much total risk. Okay, so this is something that's individual. It depends on your account size, especially when you're starting out. Obviously, if you only have $100, it doesn't really make sense to risk 1% on that account, right? You might risk more, and that's understandable, but have rules and stick to them. Don't risk it all in a single trade if that's all you've got, right? You want to try to stay alive and eventually to thrive, to consistently profit, okay? And in order to do that, you need to have proper risk management here. So how much total are we going to risk if I were taking, say, 2 or 3 trades, which for me, my maximum is mostly 2 to 3 trades. If I take beyond 2 to 3 trades, it's only because the existing trades are already well in profit and stops are flat. So I have no risk in those trades. Okay. Usually it's 2 to 3 max. And the reason is simple, because I only like to risk 5% maximum at any given time. I might do that in 2 trades. I might do that in a single trade. I might do that spread across 3 trades, right? But that's 5% maximum, and that's given that I have very high conviction in where the price is headed next, which happens maybe once a month if I'm lucky, right? And that's, again, my strategies, my sweep strategy and breakout strategies, they're very specific in what I'm looking for. And so I want the odds in my favor as much as possible. So other times I might risk only 1% total, maybe 2% total, maybe 3%, but I won't go beyond 5%. So I think that's having a cap is really essential as you're learning to trade, and even for professionals. Okay. So leverage does not matter. If you know your stop, you use a proper size. So we talked about that. And okay, so let's talk a little bit more about these before we get into the last tips and tricks here. So this is the 2.5%, same setup as the previous, but you notice it starts with 0.75% as your stop loss. So all the blues are the stop losses, all the greens are the position sizes, and it tells you the leverage to use. Make sure you reset the leverage. Check the leverage first before you take the trade. Because I can tell you, I've made this mistake many times myself where I kept previous leverage and I over leveraged or under leveraged, and then I had to adjust the trade. Maybe exit it, get back in, or something like that. It's better to just set the leverage first and don't apply the leverage to all positions, okay? Just for that single asset in that single instance. And always, for me personally, using isolated margin is the best, because if you use cross margin, what that will do is it will give you wonky levels for your liquidation. It will make it seem like you're safe, but the reality is it's drawing from your entire account. Okay, and so it's very easy to blow your account if you're not careful with cross margin. So that's sort of a side point there, but it is important to understand. Use isolated so that if you say do not set your stop loss, which should be the very first thing that you do after taking the trade, knowing exactly where you're wrong. You've already established it before you took the trade. You established your position sizing. Let's say it's $625, and then you set your 2% stop loss within the exchange app itself, and then you can worry about your take profits, right? So that's the most important thing to understand. These I don't use as frequently. Again, I must have really high conviction. And this conviction came from years and years of backtesting and trading and knowing my edge. So if I take 3% in a trade, it's because I feel really good about that setup. Really good. It's not just, I'll take this trade. It seems like it might work out in my favor. It's not like that. No. So in those cases, I'm saying, well, 0.5%, 1%, start out that way. And then, because a lot of the times, a lot of you will think you have high conviction, but you don't really know what high conviction is. You have to experience it. Okay. And this is not to insult anybody or anything like that. We're all at different levels as traders. I'm still learning myself. And there are times where I think I have really high conviction and I'm completely wrong. And that's going to happen. So if you're consistently risking 3% per trade, if you have a drawdown, say 4 to 5 trades in a row, that's a pretty big hit, especially if that's your main account. So there are workarounds to that if you want to use higher risk. And the main one is have a DGen account. So if you want to be a DGen, create a separate smaller account, rule number 9, because this will kind of shift things psychologically so that it can feed the itch to want to risk, say, 10, 20, 30% of your account. But you can maybe use $100 or $500 to start and see how high you can run that. So I've done that several times where I've run it to many thousands of dollars and then either withdrawn or even blown the account. I recently took an account from 500 to about 9,000 and all the way back down again. Before that, I ran it from 5 to, say, I think it was like 20 something thousand, and then I just threw it into some spot position. Okay. So, I mean, everybody's different in how they approach that, but for me, it just feeds an itch. I don't really care. I'm not attached. It's like taking a single trade, basically. If you start with $500, if you lose it, okay, no big deal. But that also can create a sort of reckless situation, and that's something you don't want to have in general. If you can limit it to that account, then you'll be better off, okay? Be very careful not to oversize after big wins. Overconfidence destroys many otherwise profitable traders, including myself. Well, I'm not saying I'm not profitable, but this has been one of my Achilles heels, where I've had a series of massive wins and then a series of losses that erase a good chunk of that, sometimes all of that. That happened to me starting out as a trader, and that held me back. Okay, so don't get overconfident. Stay humble. Stick to your system. That's the most important thing. stick to that system. So I know exactly what I can and can't do. I'm not going to try to quickly double my account unless it's a degen account. Okay, so that took me years to learn. Hopefully you don't have to go through that same process that I did, because it really did. It delayed my path to consistent profitability. It delayed my path to ultimate financial freedom. And so that's why I'm emphasizing this for all of you. Trading multiple accounts with size is only recommended for more experienced traders. So once you go, having a small degen account is one thing, but once you start really splitting up your account into, say, like 2 or 3 or 5 accounts, some people will do this and then they'll risk more in those accounts. And they think, well, if I blow the account, it's still only a small percentage, relatively speaking. I mean, if that floats your boat psychologically, it makes you feel better about it, that's fine. But it's just overcomplicating things. It's better to just stick with 1, maybe 2 accounts, and a degen account and a regular account at most. Okay. And then if you start getting more experienced over the years, then you'll get more comfortable with this. But oftentimes, if I trade different accounts, what I'll do is I will take the same trades in roughly the same location, of course, as close as I possibly can. And then I will manage them in the exact same way. And that simplifies it. But I might risk different amounts on those accounts. Okay, so that's one way you can sort of be more fluid with how you manage risk. But either way, these spreadsheets are a godsend. I mean, for me, it took me years to develop these, believe it or not. Because I just have been refining them over the years. And you'll notice it drops down to 5x as we get to the 9% mark. It's either 20, 10, or 5x. Most of the time, I'm somewhere in this 10x region here. And I might still use 10x. No, it's usually 20x if it's a less than 4% of stop there. But again, leverage doesn't really matter. It's just about keeping the minimum amount in that exchange account, because I don't trust exchanges in general. I do trust Blowfin. They've been very good to me, and I've never had a single problem with them. But there have been other unnamed exchanges that are not so... they don't have the integrity. Let's put it that way. So I hope that you found value in this video. It's completely free for everyone. Of course, if you find value, please like the video, give it a thumbs up, share any questions, comments in the comment section, and have a beautiful rest of your day.